It started in their final year of high school. Emma Carson and Daniel Reed had known each other since middle school, but they'd never been more than casual acquaintances. Emma was the girl who stayed in the background, shy, studious, with a love for art that she rarely shared. Daniel was the opposite, the charming athlete, always at the center of attention, with an easygoing smile that seemed to come naturally. Their worlds were different, yet fate had other plans. One chilly September afternoon, Emma's art teacher asked for a volunteer to help with the school mural. To her surprise, Daniel raised his hand, offering to help. He wasn't exactly known for his interest in art, but Emma didn't think much of it until a few days later, they found themselves working side by side on the mural. At first, they barely talked. Emma was nervous, unsure why someone like Daniel would want to be there. But he had a way of breaking the silence with light jokes, and soon they found themselves talking about everything: life, dreams, music. As the weeks passed, their bond grew. Daniel began walking Emma home after school, and soon it became a habit neither of them wanted to break. Their differences became less like boundaries and more like bridges. Daniel's confidence gave Emma the courage to share her art, and Emma's quiet depth pulled Daniel away from the superficiality of high school drama. They became inseparable, and by the time graduation rolled around, they were more than friends. They were in love. College came, and they promised to stay together. Emma went to an art school in the city, while Daniel stayed in their hometown for college, playing football for a local team. The first year of long distance was hard, but they made it work. Emma would visit Daniel on weekends, and they'd talk for hours on the phone, staying up late to share stories about their days. They seemed to be defying the odds, but as time went on, the cracks started to show. Emma's life in the city became busier. She was meeting new people, exploring her passion for art in ways she hadn't imagined. Daniel, meanwhile, was struggling with his own identity. Football wasn't as fulfilling as it once was, and he felt left behind as Emma's world grew bigger. The once effortless conversations began to feel strained. Texts went unanswered for longer, and the distance between them felt more emotional than physical. One summer, after nearly 3 years of trying to keep their relationship alive, they had a conversation that changed everything. Sitting at the park bench where they had their first real date, Daniel looked at Emma with a sadness she hadn't seen before. "I don't know how to say this," he began, his voice barely above a whisper. "But I feel like we're drifting apart, Emma. I love you, but we're not the same people we were in high school." Emma's heart sank. She had felt it too, the widening gap between them, the unspoken tension. But hearing him say it out loud made it real. Tears welled up in her eyes as she reached for his hand. "I love you too, Daniel," she whispered. "But maybe we've outgrown what we had." They sat in silence for what felt like hours, both knowing that this was the end of an era, but neither willing to fully let go. They hugged, tight and lingering, as if trying to hold on to the memories that had once defined them. The breakup wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, like the fading of a summer sunset, slow and inevitable. They promised to stay friends, but deep down, both knew that their lives were moving in different directions. Emma dove deeper into her art, eventually landing a job at a prestigious gallery, while Daniel took a year off to figure out his next steps. Years passed, and life moved on. Emma had a few relationships, but none felt as profound as what she had with Daniel. She threw herself into her career, finding solace in her paintings, which became reflections of the emotions she carried but never voiced. Daniel, after a period of self-discovery, found a new passion in coaching, helping kids who loved football as much as he once did. They occasionally checked in on each other, exchanging polite texts and the occasional birthday message, but the closeness was gone. One crisp autumn evening, almost a decade after their breakup, Emma found herself back in their hometown for an art exhibition. As she wandered through the familiar streets, memories flooded her, of long walks with Daniel, of late-night phone calls, and of the dreams they once shared. She hadn't seen him in years, but she still thought of him, especially on quiet nights. The evening of the exhibition arrived, and as Emma mingled with the crowd, she spotted a familiar face in the distance. Daniel was there, standing by one of her paintings, his eyes focused on the canvas. Her heart skipped a beat as their eyes met from across the room. For a moment, neither of them moved. It felt like time had paused, as if they were both transported back to that mural in high school where it all began. Slowly, Daniel walked over, and they stood in front of each other for the first time in years. "You've come a long way, Emma," he said softly, glancing at the painting behind her. "So have you," she replied, her voice just as soft. They talked, catching up on the years that had passed. There was a warmth in their conversation, a mutual respect for the journeys they had taken. But as the evening wore on, it became clear that while they had both grown, they were no longer the same people who had once fallen in love. They had different lives now, different paths. As the night came to a close, Daniel smiled at Emma, his eyes filled with a mixture of nostalgia and acceptance. "We had something special, didn't we?" Emma nodded, tears pricking at her eyes. "We did, and I'll always cherish that." They hugged, and it felt like closure, real closure. They weren't meant to be together forever, but they had shared something beautiful, something that had shaped who they were. And that was enough. As they parted ways, Emma walked out into the crisp night air, feeling a strange sense of peace. She realized that love wasn't always about staying together. Sometimes it was about letting go, about understanding that people grow and change. And though their love story had come to an end, it had left her with memories she would carry forever. Some love stories don't last forever, but that doesn't make them any less meaningful.